So in the next few minutes, I'll tell you about movies everyone should see at least once. My name is Dan K, and this is the DK Now channel. Let's go. Knockin' on Heaven's Door. A film I haven't told you about, but most likely you've at least heard of it. This German film featuring Til Schweiger in the lead role was released back in 1997, yet it still holds up well today. Classics usually have that timeless quality. The accurate translation of the film's title is Knocking on Heaven's Door, which signifies being at death's door. Perhaps that's more precise. In the plot, fate brings two strangers together in a hospital where they receive terminal diagnoses. However, these guys refuse to accept their fate and quietly spend their remaining days in the hospital room. Instead, they escape from the hospital after stealing a car with 1,000,000 German marks in the trunk. A huge thanks to director Thomas John for this story, and special gratitude to Til Schweiger, not only for his excellent acting but also for the screenplay he worked on together with the director. While watching this film, you'll certainly ponder over many crucial life questions. What is life? Why can't we just be ourselves? And does what we do really have any significance? One thing is for sure, after watching this film, you'll want to live differently. Believe me, each of those 87 minutes of the film is worth your attention.
You can use my straw. I don't have cooties.
Yeah, but maybe I do.
Cooties I can handle.
God damn, it's a pretty good milkshake.
Told you.
Pulp Fiction. Not knowing who Quentin Tarantino is simply impossible. Throughout his almost 40-year career, he has directed only about a dozen films, but what films they are. This director, screenwriter, and, in a word, creator, doesn't work for quantity, but for quality. I could add Kill Bill and the legendary Sin City to this list. It's impossible to forget the films he produced, From Dusk Till Dawn and Planet Terror with Rose McGowan. But perhaps true classic in this bloodily intriguing genre remains Pulp Fiction. Two bandits, Vincent Vega and Jules Winfield, engage in philosophical conversations between altercations and dealing with debts owed to criminal boss Marcellus Wallace. In the first story, Vincent spends an unforgettable evening with Marcellus's wife, Mia. The second tells of boxer Butch Coolidge, paid off by Wallace to throw a fight. And in the third, Vincent and Jules find themselves in trouble due to a bizarre incident. As you might have guessed, all these stories are intricately linked. John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, Uma Thurman, some of them were made stars by Quentin with this film, while for others, he elevated their status. You don't come across film anthologies every day, especially ones as high quality and intense as this. In this brutal genre, not only Tarantino directs, but to truly understand him, watching Pulp Fiction is enough. It's a masterpiece for all time. I can't delve into details about all the films that fit into this category, but it's impossible not to mention such films as the heart-rending Titanic film, not about the sinking of a ship, but about true love, the best and worst qualities of people throughout time, selflessness, and that which only a few remember. Also, Interstellar, perhaps the best story about what might lie beyond our planet. True professionals, scientists, and the brightest minds of our time worked on this story. One cannot ignore Fight Club film that everyone should watch at least once in their lifetime. It's even better to rewatch periodically, discovering something new at every stage of life. And of course, the Shawshank Redemption cinematic masterpiece about true friendship, resilience, courage, perseverance, and hope. This story will teach you a lot. Some Like It Hot. This musical comedy by director and producer Billy Wilder was released in the distant year of 1959, and who would have thought then that this film would become a classic of world cinema? Chicago musicians Joe and Jerry accidentally witness a gangster shootout and hastily escape on a train to Florida, disguising themselves as women. Now they are Josephine and Daphne, new and pretty instrumentalists in an all-female jazz band. For a while, their disguise works. But soon, a love-struck vocalist falls for the disguised man, Josephine. An elderly millionaire starts pursuing Daphne, and the mafia boss, having unraveled the masquerade, decides to quickly deal with the witnesses. The name Marilyn Monroe is known to both young and old, but very few of today's youth have seen even one film featuring her. Shot in black and white, this film was done very well. That's why even in black and white, it's so easy to watch today. The sparkling humor of this film will be understood by all ages, and soon you'll understand why the film has become so quotable. By the way, Marilyn Monroe doesn't steal the screen time, as her character is bright but still a secondary character. Watching this film at least once in a lifetime is definitely worth it.
Please open the door. Please.
Léon. This French-American film by Luc Besson will shoot a bullet of emotional pain and tenderness straight into your heart. The main character of the movie is Léon, a hitman working for the Italian mafia. He's flawless in his craft, working swiftly, cleanly, and efficiently, leaving no traces. He has a clear daily routine, watering his favorite flower, cleaning his weapons, and dropping by a Sicilian pizzeria for the next contract, followed by meticulous preparation for the next assignment. This idyllic routine is disrupted by his neighbor, a girl named Matilda, whose family was brutally killed by corrupt cops. Leon saves her life by letting her into his apartment, thus becoming her guardian and mentor. He teaches her his trade, passing on invaluable skills. However, Matilda's thirst for revenge clouds her judgment, leading to a rash act that has sorrowful consequences. In some inexplicable way, French actor Jean Reno and 11-year-old American Natalie Portman formed a strong bond, understanding each other almost without words. When casting for the role of Matilda, Besson rejected almost all the candidates from the first round. Natalie Portman was initially in this list, but was dismissed by the assistant director for being too young. She was just 10 years old at the time. However, the determined girl broke through for another audition and delivered such a performance that Luc Besson never doubted her talent again and cast her as Matilda. Everyone will see what they want in this film, but there's no doubt that absolutely everyone should watch this story. By the way, there are two versions of the movie, the standard edition and an extended version containing an extra 25 minutes of scenes. Watch the extended version. The music in this film is a separate form of art. It was composed by French composer Eric Serra, who often collaborated with Luc Besson's films. During the final credits, Sting's rendition of the song Shape of My Heart plays. Try not to shed a tear at that moment. The Day After Tomorrow, a grandiose disaster film about global warming. Earth confidently moves towards a global ecological catastrophe. In one part of the world, all life perishes from drought, while in another, raging water wipes out cities. The impending catastrophe forces a climate scientist attempting to find a way to stop global warming to embark on a search for his missing son in New York, which has entered a new ice age. The young and incredibly talented Jake Gyllenhaal in the lead role significantly influenced the success of this film. However, the main theme of this story is crucially important. The filmmakers aim to show that the threat of an ice age is imminent, and every day we are one step closer to it. According to scientists' predictions, this story depicts the nearest years, and we're already witnessing the first symptoms. If the whole world were to watch this film together now, perhaps something would change for the better.
You can't keep doing this, Forrest. You can't keep trying to rescue me all the time.
They was trying to grab you.
A lot of people try to grab me.
Forrest Gump, one of, if not the best, acting performances by Tom Hanks that captivated millions of viewers. Sitting at a bus stop, Forrest Gump, a kind and open guy, tells incredible stories about his life to random people. In one story, he's a famous football player. In another, a celebrated war hero. In the third, a successful tennis player, and eventually, even a billionaire. But Forrest Gump's only important dream cannot come true because it involves the mutual affection of a girl he loved in his childhood. In harsh reality, a simple-minded yet kind Forrest Gump is unwanted by anyone. The film strayed quite far from Winston Groom's original novel, where Forrest Gump was depicted as a sharp, intolerable cynic. The movie quote, "Life is like a box of chocolates," is entirely contrary to the sentiment in the novel. Being an idiot is no box of chocolates. This is why the film is so important for audiences, unlike Winston Groom's novel, which served as its basis. The reason why everyone should watch this film at least once is perhaps best explained by the movie's slogan, "The world will never be the same once you've seen it through the eyes of Forrest Gump." Often, it's the minority who's right. Eventually, truth prevails over the majority. The story of the main character is essential for everyone to know. We all dreamt that as we grew up, we wouldn't lose that naive, light, and kind Forrest in our souls. But unfortunately, not everyone succeeded in this endeavor. Be sure to watch this film at least once and take a look at yourself from a different perspective. Believe me, there will be much to marvel at. Schindler's List. In 1993, Steven Spielberg did something no one expected from him. He didn't make another blockbuster, but a globally impactful and serious film. Schindler's List, by the way, became the most expensive black and white film in history. The movie depicts the real-life story of a German businessman and major factory owner, Oskar Schindler, who managed to save hundreds of lives during mass repression, secretly defying the ruling regime. Throughout the war, he saved lives, including preventing 2 trains filled with children and women destined for Auschwitz. After Schindler persuaded a high-ranking SS officer not to incinerate his workers, he was allowed to compile a list of those who would survive. In the 1980s, Martin Scorsese declined to direct it, believing that only a Jewish director could properly handle the film. Ultimately, he swapped projects with Spielberg, taking on Cape Fear. Fortunately, it seems. We've seen dozens, some hundreds of war movies, but with Schindler's List, the story can be seen from a slightly different perspective. Despite being an artistic film, the feeling it evokes is almost documentary. Overall, it's a very powerful and thought-provoking film that everyone should watch.
Not gonna be any war.
Oh, honey, of course there's gonna be a war.
If either of you boys says war just once again, I'll go in the house and slam the door.
Gone with the Wind, the oldest film on this list, and perhaps that's why it's so wonderful. In the storyline, the mighty winds of the Civil War instantly sweep away the carefree youth of Scarlett O'Hara, transitioning from the familiar sounds of balls to the roar of cannonades approaching her home. For the young woman forced to fight for a new life on ravaged land, trials and deprivations become an opportunity to reconsider ideals, find faith in herself, and discover true love. This story captivated millions and continues to captivate to this day. Interestingly, Margaret Mitchell, who wrote the novel in 1936, admitted that she wrote Scarlett's character as an example of the worst woman of her era. Yet, the most astonishing part is that the main character became a genuine role model for the overwhelming majority of female viewers and readers. For over 25 years, Gone with the Wind remained the highest-grossing film in cinema history, adjusted for inflation, and it remains so to this day. Yes, at this moment, honestly calculated, it's not the Avengers or even Avatar, but indeed Gone with the Wind. At that time, by the way, the world's population was just over 2 billion people. In short, it's genuine classic cinema that one must not overlook, even if just once. Watch this two-part marvel, and let those 4 hours fly by unnoticed. Breakfast at Tiffany's. Let's go back in time and remember this masterpiece about the charming liar, an honest liar. At the heart of the story is the capital of the world's powerful and the cozy nest of the delightful Holly Golightly. Some might call her a call girl, others an adventurer. Some might think she's as cunning as a fox, while others might assume she's as naive as can be. Holly doesn't care. She enjoys life, changes outfits, and seeks a wealthy husband. But one day, a charming young man moves in upstairs, and from that moment, this story begins to unfold. The incomparable Audrey Hepburn. You've certainly heard this name, but maybe, similar to Marilyn Monroe, you haven't seen any of her films. Correct this misunderstanding soon. By the way, initially, it was Marilyn who was supposed to play the lead role in Breakfast at Tiffany's. For any psychologist or anyone interested in this theme, this film is a real treat. There's genuinely a lot to dissect here. The problems of the main characters resonate with most people on the planet, and that's probably why this story still speaks to the hearts of viewers from all times, starting from 1961. Most likely, after watching this film just once, you won't be able to forget it, finding yourself returning to it periodically. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Bringing together the audacious Jim Carrey and the star of Titanic, Kate Winslet, seemed like a strange decision, but surprisingly, it resulted in an astonishing story. Shy and melancholic Joel lives an unremarkable gray and dreary life. But one day, instead of his usual work route, he spontaneously boards a train in the opposite direction and heads for the sea. On the sandy shore, Joel notices a girl with bright blue hair. On the way back, they meet on the train, and Joel realizes that he and Clementine have a lot in common, almost as if he already knows her. Soon, Joel understands that he did indeed know her, and they were once a couple. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of the most inventive romantic dramas of recent times, blending realistic relationship issues with surreal and impossible imagery. The creative exploration of the main character's mind not only offers viewers a better understanding of a relationship evolving on the cutting edge, but also of the human being itself. Moreover, its non-linear structure makes it one of the most memorable films about relationships. I highly recommend watching it.
But I tried, didn't I? God damn it. At least I did that.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Jack Nicholson delivered one of his finest performances in this film. He portrays Randall Patrick McMurphy, a pathological criminal and rebel who gets transferred from a prison to a mental institution to determine whether he's mentally ill or not. Inside the institution, he encounters the cold, strict, and order-obsessed Nurse Ratched. McMurphy intends to defy the absurd, in his view, rules while having some fun. His rebellious nature infects other patients, but Nurse Ratched is determined determined to stop it. The film is a stunning blend of comedy and drama, with Nicholson delivering one of his devilishly charming roles. It results in a complex and unforgettable story. The acting prowess of all the lead actors is mesmerizing from the very first moments. Not being aware of this film's existence or its narrative is almost considered ignorance today, and it's hard to argue against that. Overall, dedicate one of your upcoming evenings to this movie. You won't regret it. Even almost half a century later, the film remains exquisite. The Matrix. Despite The Matrix Resurrections being a complete failure, undoubtedly the first film will forever remain a wonderful and one of the most innovative movies of the 1990s. From its inventive action to its thought-provoking story, The Matrix is a mind-boggling genre masterpiece. Thomas Anderson's life is divided into two parts. By day, he's an ordinary office worker getting pushed around by his superiors, and by night, he transforms into a hacker named Neo, able to infiltrate any place in the network. But one day, everything changes. Thomas learns that the world around him is an illusion, a matrix controlled by machines. This matrix serves as a means for these new masters to harvest energy from humanity. Yet there is also the resistance, individuals living outside the matrix fighting for humanity to reclaim its proud name and cease being mere batteries. And Neo is the chosen one, capable of restoring freedom to humanity. The Matrix should be watched primarily to understand the genesis of groundbreaking special effects that are still alive today and will endure for quite some time. They were developed at the turn of the millennium precisely for this film. It's a real revolution in every sense, definitely worthy of your attention. Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. This marks the epic beginning of George Lucas's space saga, a film that revolutionized the world of cinema overnight. Set on a desert planet, an aging Jedi Knight named Obi-Wan Kenobi saves a young Luke Skywalker as he attempts to locate a missing droid. From that moment, Luke realizes his true destiny. He is one of the Jedi Knights. As a civil war engulfs the galaxy and the rebel forces battle against the evil Emperor, a desperate mercenary pilot named Han Solo joins Luke and Obi-Wan. Accompanied by two droids, R2-D2 and C-3PO, this unusual squad sets out to find the leader of the rebels, Princess Leia. The heroes face a desperate confrontation with the intimidating Darth Vader, the Emperor's right hand, and their secret weapon, the Death Star. Over several decades, an entire series of films within this franchise has been released, but the beginning was undoubtedly the most stunning. Surprisingly, Lucas struggled to secure funding for this film, as most studios believed no one would want to watch it. If the director hadn't been so bold and persistent, we might never have seen a single film from this now massive franchise. At the time, A New Hope provided numerous filmmakers with a plethora of ideas for their projects, spawning many imitators. You might skip all the other films and series in this franchise, but watching the very first movie is highly recommended. The Godfather. Among film enthusiasts, there's much debate about which film is better, the first or the second. However, it's safe to say that both are monumental achievements in cinema. This is a crime saga that tells the story of the Corleone mafia family in New York. The film spans the period from 1945 to 1955. The family's patriarch, Don Vito Corleone, arranges the marriage of his daughter. Meanwhile, his beloved son Michael returns from World War II. A war hero and pride of the family, Michael has no desire to get involved in the family's brutal business. Don Corleone conducts his affairs by old rules, but times are changing and people eager to alter the established order emerge. An assassination attempt is made on Don Corleone. Few know that Paramount acquired the rights to adapt Mario Puzo's novel The Godfather even before its publication. The studio only had a 20-page plan of the novel at their disposal. One thing was clear: this story was destined for success. Puzo's book became a bestseller, selling 10 million copies. The film mirrored the book's success. The conflicts between fathers and sons, men and women, power and powerlessness, cruelty and mercy. All these themes that resonate with everyone are fully explored here.
Authority is not given to you to deny the return of the king. Steward.
Rule of Gondor is mine, and no others.
The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Yes, it's already the third film in the series, but it rightfully deserves a place on this list for several reasons. Few believed that adapting J.R.R. Tolkien's epic tale, The Lord of the Rings, for the big screen was possible, but Peter Jackson proved them all wrong. With The Return of the King, Jackson managed to conclude one of the greatest film trilogies of all time in a truly satisfying manner. The film concludes the quest to destroy the One Ring. While some some criticize it for its extended ending, Jackson and his team did a marvelous job bringing everything to a close in this emotionally spectacular masterpiece that features some genuinely stunning battle scenes. The sheer production effort is awe-inspiring, and it's unlikely we'll see something of this scale anytime soon. This film garnered numerous awards from MTV, the British Academy, the Golden Globes, and of course, dominated the Oscars in 2004, winning a remarkable 11 statuettes and leaving competitors with no chance. Anyone passionate about the world of cinema should watch this film at least once in their lifetime. Which of these films do you like best? And what other film would you include on this list? I'm waiting for your comments under this video right now. My name is Dan K, and this is the DK Now channel. See you soon. Bye.